Hello chaps, Paul Curran here. I hope you and all the listeners are well. First of all, our thoughts must go out to the victims in New Zealand and our brothers and sisters there who are in great shock today, given the dreadful acts of violence that have occurred in Christchurch. Today is also the Ides of March. Perhaps not the best date on which to visit the capital if your surname is Caesar. It also happens to be my good friend Willen's birthday. Many happy returns, Willen. And it is also Comic Relief Day in Britain. With that in mind, I thought this Poetry Corner I should begin with a more serious poem and conclude with some humorous ones. So I shall start by reading Diet Joke, which is a sonnet from my first collection, his only sonnet of a couple of years ago. And it goes like this. Consumed by this dieting discipline, yet I don't have to lose very much weight, perhaps a stone too heavy for my height, without concerns about looks or waistline, wedding photos or marathon deadline. Just wish to feel lighter feet without slight or gimmick. Now about 7 or 8 pounds to go, halfway to the finish line. Conscious, though, of our time's obscenity, that we should dare to be fat, with children bone-wasting beneath our same planet's sun. Their hunger pangs shaming our vanity, bare, barren sandlands burning our brethren, as our sated, tabled plates overrun. Frederick Ogden Nash, 1902 to 1971, is America's best-known producer of humorous poetry. He was a graduate of Harvard University, and he wrote some 500 plus short humorous poems. Two examples of which are A Word to Husbands. To keep your marriage brimmin' with love in the lovin' cup. Whenever you're wrong, admit it. Whenever you're right, shut up. Cow. Cow is of the bovine ilk. One end moo, the other milk. In Britain, Roald Dahl, whose dates were the 13th of September 1916 to the 23rd of November 1990, he lived to be 74, is our most famous writer of children's books. He sold over 250 million copies worldwide. He's a novelist, a short story writer, poet, a screenwriter, and he was a fighter pilot. Born in Wales to Norwegian immigrant parents, Dahl attended Repton School and later served in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. He became a flying ace and an intelligence officer, rising to the rank of acting wing commander. He rose to prominence as a writer in the 1940s with works for both children and adults, and he is one of the world's best-selling authors. As well as the Tales of the Unexpected short stories, which were so memorably televised in Britain between 1979 and 1988, Dahl also wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, the BFG, The Witches, and James and the Giant Peach, all so memorably and vividly illustrated by Sir Quentin Blake, who himself won the Hans Christian Andersen Award in 2002, this being the highest award available to creators of children's books. Cinderella by Roald Dahl was published in Revolting Rhymes, a collection of 6 poems published in 1982. Each poem is a parody of a traditional folk tale. He provides a reinterpretation and surprise ending instead of the traditional happily ever after ending. Cinderella shows a different side to the Cinderella story that everybody knows. It has some gory twists and turns and goes like this. I guess you think you know this story. You don't. The real one's much more gory. The phony one, the one you know, was cooked up years and years ago, and made to sound all soft and sappy, just to keep the children happy. Mind you, they got the first bit right, the bit where, in the dead of night, the ugly sisters, jewels and all, departed for the palace ball, while darling little Cinderella was locked up in a slimy cellar, where rats who wanted things to eat began to nibble at her feet. She bellowed, "Help, and let me out!" The magic fairy heard her shout. Appearing in a blaze of light, she said, "My dear, are you all right?" "All right," cried Cindy. "Can't you see? I feel as rotten as can be." She beat her fist against the wall and shouted, "Get me to the ball! There is a disco at the palace. The rest have gone and I'm jealous. I want a dress, I want a coach, and earrings, and a diamond brooch, and silver slippers, 2 of those, and lovely nylon pantyhose. Done up like that, I'll guarantee the handsome prince will fall for me." The fairy said, "Hang on a tick." She gave her wand a mighty flick, and quickly, in no time at all, Cindy was at the palace ball. It made the ugly sisters wince to see her dancing with the prince. She held him very tight and pressed herself against his manly chest. The prince himself was turned to pulp. All he could do was gasp and gulp. Then midnight struck. She shouted, "Heck! I've got to run to save my neck." The prince cried, "No, alas, alack!" He grabbed her dress to hold her back. As Cindy shouted, "Let me go!" the dress was ripped from head to toe. She ran out in her underwear and lost one slipper on the stair. The prince was on it like a dart. He pressed it to his pounding heart. "The girl this slipper fits," he cried, "tomorrow morn shall be my bride. I'll visit every house in town until I've tracked the maiden down." Then, rather carelessly, I fear, he placed it on a crate of beer. At once, one of the ugly sisters, the one whose face was blotched with blisters, sneaked up and grabbed the dainty shoe and quickly flushed it down the loo. Then in its place she calmly put the slipper from her own left foot. Ah, you see, the plot grows thicker, and Cindy's luck starts looking sicker. Next day, the prince went charging down to knock on all the doors in town. In every house the tension grew. Who was the owner of the shoe? The shoe was long and very wide. A normal foot got lost inside. Also, it smelled a wee bit icky. The owner's feet were hot and sticky. Thousands of eager people came to try it on, but all in vain. Now came the ugly sisters' go. One tried it on. The prince screamed, "No!" But she screamed, "Yes, it fits, whoopee! So now you've got to marry me." The prince went white from ear to ear. He muttered, "Let me out of here." "Oh, no, you don't. You made a vow. There's no way you can back out now." "Off with her head!" the prince roared back. They chopped it off with one big whack. This pleased the prince. He smiled and said, "She's prettier without her head." Then up came sister number 2, who wailed, "Now I will try the shoe." "Try this instead," the prince yelled back. He swung his trusty sword and smack, her head went crashing to the ground. It bounced a bit and rolled around. In the kitchen, peeling spuds, Cinderella heard the thuds of bouncing heads upon the floor and poked her head round the door. "What's all the racket?" Cindy cried. "Mind your own biz," the prince replied. Poor Cindy's heart was torn to shreds. "My prince," she thought, "he chops off heads. How could I marry anyone who does that sort of thing for fun?" The prince cried, "Who's this dirty slut? Off with her nut, off with her nut!" Just then, all in a blaze of light, the magic fairy hove in sight. Her magic wand went swoosh and swish. "Cindy," she cried, "come make a wish. Wish anything and have no doubt that I will make it all come about." Cindy answered, "Oh, kind fairy, this time I shall be more wary. No more princes, no more money. I've had my taste of honey. I'm wishing for a decent man. They're hard to find. Do you think you can?" Within a minute Cinderella was married to a lovely fella, a simple jam maker by trade, who sold good homemade marmalade. Their house was filled with smiles and laughter, and they were happy ever after.